Lufthansa Flight 181, 1977. The daring German GSG-9. Rescue in Mogadishu. The warm Mediterranean breeze carried the scent of salt and pine as Lufthansa Flight 181, the reliable Boeing 737 known as the Landshut, prepared for departure from Palma de Mallorca Airport on October 13, 1977. For the passengers on board, it marked the end of sun-drenched holidays filled with laughter, beach walks, and the simple joy of escaping everyday life. The plane carried 86 passengers and a dedicated crew of 5, many of them English-speaking travelers who had chosen the flight for its smooth connections back toward familiar shores in Europe and beyond. American viewers tuning into this story on their screens would find it easy to relate. Ordinary folks like themselves caught in extraordinary circumstances. Captain Jürgen Schumann, a seasoned German pilot with a calm, fatherly presence, ran through his final checks in the cockpit. Beside him, First Officer Jürgen Viator double-checked the instruments. In the cabin, head stewardess Anna Kessler, who had spent years living in London and spoke with a soft Anglo-German lilt, greeted passengers with genuine warmth. Her team, young steward Michael and attendants Sophie and Clara, helped families settle in, stowing bags and offering reassuring smiles. In economy class, row 14, sat Thomas Harrington, a 45-year-old structural engineer from Manchester, England. Tall with salt and pepper hair and a build shaped by years on construction sites, Thomas had taken this trip with his wife Margaret to celebrate their 20th wedding anniversary. Margaret, a primary school teacher with gentle blue eyes and a habit of humming old Beatles tunes, squeezed his hand as they buckled in. "I still can't believe we danced under those Mallorca stars every night," she whispered. Thomas grinned. "And I can't believe I let you drag me into the sea that last morning. Freezing it was." Across the aisle, the Parker family from Chicago brought a distinctly American flavor to the flight. Mark Parker, 38, worked as an accountant for a manufacturing firm back home. Practical and quick-witted, he wore a faded Cubs cap. His wife, Laura, a warm-hearted nurse with curly brown hair, had planned the Spain getaway to give their daughter a break from city life. 8-year-old Emily Parker clutched a plush dolphin toy she'd named Sunny. "Mommy, when we get home, can we tell Grandma about the castles we saw?" Emily asked, her voice bright with excitement. Other passengers included British businessman Richard Ellis, returning from a deal in Spain, a group of young English backpackers sharing headphones, and several German families mixed with expats. The atmosphere was light as the plane taxied and lifted off at 11 a.m. White clouds drifted past the windows while flight attendants served coffee and light snacks. Thomas and Margaret chatted about renovating their Manchester terrace house, while Mark told Emily stories about American baseball to pass the time. Then, at approximately 1:30 p.m., the ordinary turned to terror. 4 passengers rose from their seats with calculated menace. The leader, a sharp-featured man in his late 20s, drew a pistol and shouted in heavily accented English, "This aircraft is now under our command. We represent the struggle for freedom. No one moves or you will all die." His 3 accomplices, 2 women and 1 other man, brandished handguns and grenades. Panic erupted like a storm. Screams echoed through the cabin as people ducked instinctively. Thomas Harrington reacted instantly, pulling Margaret down between the seats. "Stay flat, love. Don't look up," he murmured, his engineer's mind already racing for ways to stay alive. In the next row, Mark Parker wrapped his arms around Laura and Emily. "Close your eyes, kiddo. Daddy's here. We're going to be fine." Emily whimpered. Burying her face in her mother's sweater, the hijackers stormed the cockpit, forcing Captain Schumann to divert the plane. Their demands were broadcast over the radio. The immediate release of 11 high-profile prisoners held in German jails, members of radical groups, and a massive ransom payment. Failure to comply would result in the plane's destruction with everyone aboard. The Landshut first headed to Rome's Fiumicino airport for refueling under Italian watch. Authorities allowed the landing, but negotiations quickly stalled as governments refused to yield. Hours turned into an agonizing wait inside the sealed cabin. The air grew thick with sweat, fear, and the faint metallic scent of weapons. Children cried uncontrollably. Adults whispered prayers or tried to comfort one another. Anna Kessler risked the hijackers' wrath by moving quietly down the aisles, distributing the last of the water and offering soft words. She knelt by Emily. "You're the bravest girl I've ever met on a flight. Keep holding that dolphin tight. He'll protect you." Thomas tried to maintain some normalcy in his section. "Remember that football match in '66, Margaret? When England won the World Cup? We'll have stories like that to tell after this." His voice stayed steady, though his heart pounded. Richard Ellis, the businessman from London, shared quiet jokes about bad airline food to ease tension among nearby passengers. "This beats the rubber chicken they usually serve, eh?" As evening approached, the plane was allowed to depart Rome and began a desperate odyssey across the Mediterranean and Middle East, a brief stop in Cyprus for more fuel, then onward to Bahrain and Dubai. In Dubai, the situation escalated horrifically. The hijackers, growing impatient and volatile, selected a passenger for execution as a warning to the authorities. Later, Captain Schumann himself would be murdered in cold blood after bravely attempting to pass secret messages about the hijackers' positions to ground control. The sound of gunfire inside the confined space left everyone shattered. Margaret sobbed silently against Thomas's shoulder. "I love you," she kept repeating. Mark Parker held his family in a protective circle, telling Emily stories of brave American pioneers to distract her from the nightmare. Back in European capitals, leaders grappled with impossible decisions. In Bonn, West German Chancellor Helmut Schmidt convened emergency meetings, his face etched with determination. "We cannot reward terror," he stated firmly, yet the lives of innocents hung in the balance. Germany activated its elite counter-terrorism force, GSG-9, created in the wake of the tragic 1972 Munich Olympics massacre. Colonel Ulrich Wegener, a tough, strategic commander in his 40s with a background in elite infantry, handpicked 60 of his best operators. They trained relentlessly in a secluded facility, storming mock aircraft fuselages under blinding lights and timed pressure. To enhance their preparation, two experienced British SAS officers were brought in as discreet advisors. Major James Hartley and Captain Robert Klein from the United Kingdom shared cutting-edge techniques on flashbang deployment and rapid entry tactics. For American audiences, this collaboration echoed joint special operations spirit, much like U.S. forces working with allies against common threats. The team rehearsed every possible scenario: night approaches, door breaching, hostage extraction. They studied blueprints of the Boeing 737 until the layout was burned into memory. The plane's final destination was Mogadishu, Somalia, where it touched down on the dusty airstrip on October 17th under the blazing African sun. The heat inside the cabin felt unbearable, like an oven. Somali authorities, influenced by diplomatic pressure, cooperated while maintaining distance. The hijackers made a gruesome display by throwing a body onto the tarmac. Their ultimatum was clear: meet the Jom demands by 3 p.m. the next day or face total destruction. Inside, despair weighed heavy. Thomas scribbled a note on a torn magazine page and slipped it to Margaret. "No matter what happens, you've made my life complete. I'm proud to be your husband." Anna continued her rounds, whispering encouragement. "Help is closer than they think. Hold on." Emily asked her parents through tears, "Are the good guys coming to save us like in the movies?" Laura stroked her hair. "Yes, sweetheart. Real heroes are on the way." Unseen by the hijackers, GSG-9 had arrived under cover of secrecy. The operators, clad in black tactical uniforms with faces camouflaged, positioned themselves near the runway. Somali troops agreed to ignite a large diversionary fire at the far end of the airstrip to draw attention forward. The commandos checked their MP5 submachine guns, pistols, and stun grenades one final time. Colonel Wegener gave the quiet order: "Prepare for Operation Feuersauber." At precisely 05 on October 18th, the night erupted. Stun grenades exploded in brilliant flashes and deafening bangs, disorienting the terrorists. Metal ladders crashed against the fuselage. Teams breached the forward and rear doors in perfect synchronization. "Get down! Everybody down now!" The operators shouted in clear English and German as they flooded the cabin like shadows come to life. Gunfire shattered the tense silence. The lead hijacker in the cockpit fired wildly before being neutralized with precise shots. One of the female terrorists near the midsection lunged toward passengers with a grenade, screaming threats, but a GSG-9 commando tackled her at full speed, securing her arms and disarming the device in one fluid motion. Another hijacker in the rear tried to resist but was quickly subdued. Bullets ricocheted off seats, sending shards of plastic and fabric flying. Smoke filled the air, stinging eyes and throats. Thomas pulled Margaret tightly to the floor. "Stay with me," he yelled over the chaos. A commando rushed past, shielding them as he cleared the row. In the Parker section, one operator, a broad-shouldered man with a calm voice, crouched over the family. "I've got you. Cover your heads." He scooped Emily into his arms while guiding Mark and Laura toward the emergency exit slide. "Run to safety, now!" The entire assault lasted only 7 intense minutes. When the echoes of gunfire faded, all 4 hijackers lay dead or captured. Miraculously, every single one of the 86 passengers survived. A few sustained minor injuries from flying debris or the frantic evacuation, scrapes, bruises, and one stewardess with a superficial gunshot graze. But they were alive. The crew, led by the surviving attendants, helped guide people out into the cool desert night. Passengers emerged blinking under the stars, some collapsing in tears, others embracing total strangers. Thomas and Margaret clung to each other on the tarmac, sobbing with relief. "We made it," Thomas kept saying. Mark Parker shook the hand of the commando who had protected Emily. "You saved my little girl. There are no words." Emily looked up at the soldier with wide eyes. "You're like Superman." The operator smiled faintly beneath his gear. "Just doing my job, miss." News of the successful rescue spread like wildfire across the globe. For American viewers in places like Chicago, New York, and small-town living rooms, the story resonated deeply. It was a tale of elite professionalism triumphing over evil, reminiscent of daring operations in their own history. GSG-9's precision became a benchmark for special forces training programs everywhere, highlighting the value of rigorous preparation, allied cooperation, and unwavering resolve. In the days and weeks that followed, survivors began piecing their lives back together. Thomas Harrington returned to Manchester, where he and Margaret hosted quiet family gatherings. He later penned a memoir called 7 Minutes That Changed Everything, detailing the fear, the small acts of kindness, and the gratitude toward their rescuers. The book became a quiet bestseller in the UK, with chapters dedicated to the Parker family and the crew's bravery. Richard Ellis used his business connections to advocate for stronger aviation security measures back in London. The Parker family flew home to Chicago as heroes in their neighborhood. Mark gave interviews to local news stations, praising the international team effort. Laura returned to nursing with a renewed sense of purpose, often sharing Emily's drawings of "The Night the Good Guys Came." Emily kept her stuffed dolphin on her bed as a reminder of survival. The family even traveled to England years later for a reunion with the Harringtons, where the adults shared laughs over tea while the children played. Captain Schumann was posthumously awarded honors for his courage in protecting passengers until the end. The captured hijacker faced justice in German courts. Chancellor Schmidt's firm leadership earned respect across the Atlantic, with American officials noting parallels to their own anti-terrorism policies. The Landshut was eventually repaired and returned to service, its fuselage bearing faint scars from that October night. But the real legacy lived in the people. Annual gatherings of survivors turned former strangers into a chosen family. They exchanged letters, attended each other's weddings and birthdays, and told the story to their children and grandchildren. This was more than a rescue operation. It was a profound demonstration of the human spirit under fire. Ordinary English engineers, American families on vacation, dedicated crew members, and elite soldiers from across borders came together in a crucible of crisis. In the sweltering cabin over foreign skies, they found courage they never knew they possessed. In the darkness of Mogadishu, professionals risked everything so that others could see another sunrise. For those watching this on an English story channel, the message is timeless. Terror may strike without warning, but resilience, skill, and the bonds between people can overcome it. In quiet moments, when fear tries to take hold, remember the land shut, a plane that carried not just passengers, but hope itself across continents. As the first light of dawn touched the Somali horizon that morning after the rescue, the survivors looked back at the aircraft standing silent on the runway. Bullet holes marked its sides like badges of survival. Inside their hearts, though, something stronger endured. The knowledge that even in the face of pure evil, good men and women would always answer the call. Closing note: good luck to all dreamers, survivors, and story lovers out there. If you enjoyed this dramatic retelling of history, be sure to stay tuned on this channel for more thrilling true story adaptations. Hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and join our community of adventure seekers. Your support keeps these tales alive.